Hello everyone, this is Gogan with Baka Studio, coming at you again with a live stream. Today's video is going to be on more simple animation, just your classic walk and run cycle. Right? I just want to. Now this is something that we probably won't use in Chaos Kart, walk and run cycle, just because it is a kart racing game, and so probably won't be doing a using the walk and run cycle, but it's good to kind of run through the rounds with walk and run cycle as animation tests for these characters. When you get a new character, it's good to do some animation tests with them, some game loops with them. If it's a game character, do some game character animations with them. But also, I just wanted to start creating, just animations for the channel that may not necessarily go in the game, but that people can reference this channel and get a lot of ideas, a lot of inspiration from the Baka Bros entertainment channel. And so yeah, we're just want to do a walk and run cycle. I'm going to start with a run cycle, since I generally like those more than walk cycles. They're just a little bit more fun. You're able to be a little more loose with them, especially because they're less frames. They're a little faster to animate, and in case we get going too long with the walk, the run cycle, we may not get to the walk, but I'm betting we will. But yeah, just want to just start this with saying, make sure that in fact, I'm gonna just open a new scene for everyone to show everyone just my process of getting a character in a scene. So first things first, when you're going to animate a character, you don't want to use the actual rig file, right? You want to reference it in. Never ever use the actual rig file. And what I mean by that is, don't ever just open up the rig file and start animating on that and creating layers on that, because what that will do, if there are any changes in the studio that are made on that character, then all of your animation work is just thrown out the window, and you have to recreate all the animation work or jump through a bunch of hoops just to get the animation working again. So what you want to do is you want to reference the character in the scene. So we're going to go to the reference editor. We're going to go to File, Create Reference, and we're going to choose our character. Okay, Mallet Boy working. That's Mallet Boy. He's going to come in gray. All that means is we need to go find the texture, and so we are going to open up. We're going to find his texture, color map, right? And you'll see that he's looking kind of weird and wonky. So we just need to click on this and go to the transparency. There's some alpha channels on Mallet Boy, I think. We just need to break the transparency connection. Okay, do that, and Mallet Boy shows up working, right? Okay, now we can go in and start animating our Mallet Boy here, and we referenced in the character, right? So if you reference in the character and any changes are made to the character in studio by the modelers or by riggers, the modelers might have a change or request from somebody else, and then it goes back to rigging, and then rigging changes something, and then now that you have referenced it, those rig changes will stay and be able to just be updated in your scene on the fly, right? And you won't have any problems, and all your animation will stay intact and everything. So I just wanted to state that before we get going, because it's very important. Actually, a lot of animators will just open up the scene file or the regular rig file and start animating. So I just wanted to start off by saying all that. Anybody that's watching this live throughout the session, just please get on, say hi in the live chat, and I'll say hi back. And if you have any suggestions or comments you want to make, please make them, and I would love to hear you guys' feedback and love to hear what you have to say. So yeah, let's get started with this run cycle. Going to select all the controls. Since I have no layers in this right now, I'm just going to create a new layer. And then world run, right? Like I said, we're going to start with the run cycle. I generally like to animate those more. All the characters that I get at my own studio that I work for, I start pretty sure I start with idles and then I'll go to the run cycle just because it's a little more fun to animate to me. Let's drop this down to 30 frames. Okay, we're gonna leave the shoulders in FK, right? In FK, it's easier to animate in FK when you're doing walks and runs, right? When you're doing more of acting scenes or scenes where their hands are holding something, or it's just easier to use IK in that instance. But this instance, since it's a run cycle, it's easier to use FK, right? And on run cycles, whenever I do run cycle, I like to start in the contact pose, right? The contact pose would be this sort of pose right here. Okay, where the feet are outstretched like this. If he was walking, if we were doing a walk cycle, his feet would be down like this and he'd be walking. But we're doing a run, and so his feet are going to start out in the air like this. We're going to get some flipping knees here, and so we're going to pull these up and out so that we don't get any knee flips. Okay. And of course, the chest is going to go opposite of the hips, right? The hips are going to be rotating this way as he's running, and then his chest is going to go the opposite way, right? And his arm, and sorry, my Maya keeps freezing up when I select the new control and try to manipulate it. I'm not quite sure why it's doing that, but just bear with me. Okay, this is pose 1. And let's go ahead and save this scene. Call it Mallet Boy test anims, since we're not going to be using the run and walk cycle in the kart racing game. We were test anims, right? Okay. Wrong control. At my studio, I actually animate quadrupeds mostly, quadruped characters, and so I love animating biped characters whenever I get the chance. We don't at WildWorks, we just pretty much animate quadrupeds, animals, and so it's really exciting working on Chaos Kart because it's filled with bipeds and the things that I haven't quite worked on yet at my current studio. Just shaping out the fingers, then you get a general pose with the fingers here. I'm going to go into my settings real quick, make sure that I'm on stepped and clamped mode. Go into my graph editor. Okay, press 6. Okay. You don't have have to block out the hands. You don't have to get a pose for the hands right now. But they just bother me when they're not in their pose. For such simple animations like this, I usually might leave the hands just in a open default pose, but I like to pose them out in these kind of animations because they're kind of a big, you can see them more. These animations and these kind of animations, right? So run cycle. I'm going to say same thing I've been saying on my videos. If anybody wants to send Baka Bros a message about animation lessons, or watching, looking at your demo reel and giving you a critique, I'd love to do that. And I think it'd be really awesome for anybody that wants to send in their demo reel for me to look at, just to give some general notes and stuff. I'd be more than happy to do that for you. And this is just going to be kind of a general run cycle here. Maybe we'll give it some personality depending on Mallet Boy's personality. He's a character that's kind of more confident, right? And so we might be able to give him just a little bit more of a confident run cycle as we go throughout this, right? There's actually a couple different ways general run cycle. You can handle a general run cycle. You can kind of do this type of run cycle, right? This is more like cartoony, where they're leaned backwards and they're like trying to run away from something. Or you can do a more purposeful run cycle where they're trying to get somewhere. They're more they have a goal in mind, right? Mallet Boy has a goal in mind here that he wants to accomplish, and so he is determined to get there. Right? He looks more heroic in this type of a run pose. He looks kind of crazy right now. That's okay. Okay. One big thing I think animators just in general forget to do, and I even forget to do it sometimes, is make sure your knees are pointing the right way, right? Make sure your knees are always pointing the same direction as your toes, because you can actually get some broken legs, and the animation might end up looking kind of weird if your knees aren't pointing the same direction as your toes. Okay, there's our first pose there. And so with the second contact pose, we can actually just press S here like this. And then if we want, we can go ahead and pose out this other leg here and kind of just match it to the other one. That way it makes it really simple. And we'll change this frame later on. And so with creating this second, well, I should say this third key pose, this is the I can just kind of toggle back and forth and see how it's looking like that, right? And they're matched up pretty well. The feet placement is matching up pretty well to each other. Okay, and then I just kind of work my way up since I gotta switch this directions. Do the same thing with this. Get his arms going. Uh-oh. Looks like it started animating on the third frame since I scrubbed through. That's okay. We can just copy and paste over to the second frame and delete that third frame. When we do this, we'll notice that, well, I guess I haven't really rotated my chest at all. Okay, looks like he's leaning over to his left a little much. So, yeah. This is always fun to do, right? Oh. Animators. Okay, so the second pose we're going to create is the passing pose, right? And so he's going to go down on the ground. On a running pose, when you're doing a run cycle, both feet are going to be off the ground at some point at the same time. And so with a walking pose, both feet are going to be contacting the ground on the contact pose. Okay, that's actually a good point to remember. It seems kind of obvious that you should remember that, but never is one foot really. Both feet. It's good to remember that both feet are going to be in the air at the same time, no matter what. There's never going to be a point where only one foot is in the air and one foot is contacting the ground. At some point, both feet are going to be in the air, and that's always good to remember, especially if you want to get cartoony. And I think that this. My animation specialty is more cartoony animation. I mean, I can do realistic animation, but my favorite animation is more cartoony, and so that's what I'll be demonstrating today is more cartoony run cycle. As if this this run cycle we're going to go into Chaos Kart, it'd be more cartoony and fun instead of realistic. And so these passing poses aren't ever too hard because everything kind of zeroes out on rotations, right? Everything kind of zeroes out. As far as the Y and the Z, right? At least on this character, or the Y and the Z, because his body is getting ready to turn the other way, right? So you can kind of scrub through actually animation a little bit by going forwards and backwards and see kind of where we're at. Obviously there's more stuff I got to do to the middle here, but there's a good idea of what we're gonna see on this run, right? And I'm liking it so far. It's really fun to see just not too much time and blocking something in, and you're able to see some life into the character. It's always fun to do that. Okay. When you're animating these, it's always good to make sure that on the first pose, whichever side you start first, when it's coming down, that this stays in front. When it's coming down to go back into the back, like this arm is in front first. This is the first passing pose. When it's coming down, it's important that it stays in front of the hips. And as this one is coming down, his left arm here is coming down, it stays behind, so that you don't get this instance where they're both even like this, because it just doesn't. Keeping one in front, keeping one behind, makes it a little more dynamic. So they're not twinning in a sense. It's not really twinning motion, but they'll both be in the same pose, and it just creates more of a appealing silhouette and profile from the side to keep it like that, to make sure they're not even on their pose. One very important thing you actually got to remember on the passing pose is you need to make sure that you rotate that hip upwards, right? That's a very important thing, and you actually get weight distribution, right? That's one of the most important things, if not the most important thing in animation, is weight distribution. If you can't nail down your weight distribution, your animations won't be believable. It doesn't matter how cartoony they are. If you cannot get your weight distribution down, your animation will sorely be lacking. So it's important that you make it so the hips are the right hip is pushing outward, right? And when you plant your foot, the straightened foot is going to be the one that is supporting all of the weight. So your body needs to shift over to that side, right? As you can see, he's in the middle here, middle pose here. And then when he gets on this leg, his weight transfers over to his left side. And then it goes back to the middle here when he jumps back up in the air for that other passing pose. This first pose looks a little nicer than this second pose. And maybe it's because the legs are too close together on this pose. So I'll go ahead and pull that out like that. And the cool thing actually about creating these animations, even though they won't be directly used for Chaos Kart, for any other games that Baka Bros use in the future, we can always just go to characters we've used, and we can use these characters for some testing on platformers or some third-person shooting games or something like that. That we want to use. We can just go ahead and reuse assets that we already have to test, and then when we like our the testing that we've done, we can just take the animations we created with other characters, throw our already made characters in the game, and then get quick results on an idea or concept that we like or not. Looks like this first pose, this leg here, this foot here is coming out farther, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay. And when I get all the way done with all my poses, I can actually lean him forward or back as a whole and pull him forward to make him either more determined to get somewhere or not. Right now I think this is a good medium. He's semi-determined to get wherever he wants to go, but if we want to make him more determined, we can just go ahead and rotate him forward like this. And we can just do that in Graph Editor super quickly. We don't have to take a ton of time. We can manipulate the Graph Editor like we want to and give him kind of a different personality with his run cycle. Okay, we've kind of pretty much fleshed out this. Passing pose here, so we're going to go back. We're now going to, this contact pose and this passing pose, so we're going to go to this next contact pose. And again, we can just copy and paste the contact pose we already made. The passing pose we already made, and just create another passing pose by putting this foot down on the ground, zeroing out certain things, leaning him over. Right. Looks like I'm animating on the 5th frame here. Don't want to do that. Okay. And since this passing pose is pretty much almost the same as this passing pose, we're just switching weight distribution. We already zeroed out the rotations and everything, and so it's already going to give us a lot of work. A lot of the work is going to be done for us. Again, this hand, since it's going to be coming down on this passing pose, it's going to be more in front. This one's going to be more behind. Not that far back. And just because I'm getting a little too excited about seeing this run cycle in action, I'm going to go ahead and finish it off, even if this passing pose here is not solid completely where I want it to be. I'm just getting a little too excited, so I just want to finish it off. Okay. I think a good rule of thumb for run cycles in a game depends on what the programmers do at the specific studio you are at. But I'd say a good rule of thumb for game speed for run cycle is for a mid run cycle for the generic run cycle, right? This is just a generic run cycle. There might be run cycles where you go even faster than this. You might trot. This is a good run cycle speed. It's 17 frames, right? 17 frames. So let's see how that's working for us. Right? I mean, maybe we can make it a frame faster. Oops. Just go through. And I made, on run cycles, all this timing is the same, right? And that's typically okay to do, because a run cycle, you're continuously going, right? You're going at, when somebody's running, they're not going faster and then slower and then faster and then slower. They're running at a pretty consistent speed the entire time, just like walking, right? You're walking at a pretty consistent speed, unless they're purposely sprinting, or in that case, and we're not doing that in this case, and they would be doing that. That's more like cinematic thing, but this is a game loop, right? And you are continuously running, and so creating even spacing on your timing is okay. Now we can play with this a little bit when we get into more of the polish phase, and you will have the hang time be longer, so that when he's in his passing pose here, contact pose here, I should say, this is the contact, he's going to hang in the air a little bit longer, and then he's going to go down, hang in the air, go down, and that's more of the cartoony way, right? And that's what I'm going to be demonstrating today. I'm feeling like this leg here is a little straight, and so I want to pull him down, because he is running after all, he's not walking, and so he has to bend down to get that weight to land on, to support the weight. He's, his leg has to support his weight, the rest of his weight on his body, and so he's going to compress, and then when he gets up in the air, he's going to extend, right? And so you want to get that contrast of him compressing down and then extending upward. And something as simple as like how high the feet are coming at the top there. is also important, right? Some people run like this, some people run like this, and honestly the speed of the run really determines that as well. Because somebody that just is going like this, that's more of a jog pose, right? This is more like a running pose, or a, you know, more than a jog pose. Jogging is, you know, pretty much running. Rotate those toes in, not too much. And pull this out. Ooh, let's go ahead and make sure we save it. That's a big one. Okay, let's look at this run cycle from all angles, right? And that looks like a pretty generic, pretty good, confident, he needs to get somewhere run cycle, right? I like where it's, how it's looking, I like where it's at. Maybe we can add a little bit of overlap in the head, right? I'm gonna actually, yeah, I'll build the overlap into this animation here. Actually, no, I'm not gonna build the overlap in. I'm going to build that after. Right, so it's easier in polish mode. Okay, I'm looking at the front here. While I'm looking at the front, I'm looking for anything that doesn't look normal, right? And first thing that I'm seeing is this knee, is his right knee here, right? Left, my left, his right knee. It kind of feels like it's popping out a little bit much compared to the other side, and so I'm just going to go over here and I'm going to pull that in. Like this. See how that looks. Again, I want to emphasize hotkeys. They're super important, make you super fast. I have a hotkey for Alt-2. That's the automatic play button. I just press Alt-2 and it presses play for me. I don't have to go over to the stop and play button a million times. Okay, I don't like how much his head is turning right here. And I might like that in polish, but for right now, I'm just going to pull it forward and keep his head straight pretty much the whole time. Something I can do is I can rotate his head to the side here. Right. I'm liking that blocking. And so I've got a pretty good idea and pretty solid run cycle blocking in here, so I'm just going to go ahead and select all the controls. Again, for all those animators out there that do stepped clamped mode, you guys know this, but you just go greater than sign and S on every single keyframe. That locks down every single one of your keyframes. It puts a keyframe on every single control, so that pose is locked down, so you don't run into any floating stuff in the in polish mode when you do hit spline. Lord Asmore is commenting a lot. Appreciate it. Pretty sure that's Daniel, actually, the head of Baka Studios, CEO, if you will. Glad you're joining us, Lord Asmore. Just compliment. It's just leaving some comments. And you know, I actually didn't think about this, that Lord Asmore brought up. You could use these for in-game cinematics, right? Maybe all the champions are running to their cart or something. For in-game cinematics, teaser trailers, or like if you're going to throw your video game up on Kickstarter, you could use these run cycles and things like this to get people pumped and psyched about the game. or just in-game cinematics themselves. You know, opening scene, all the in this case, all the characters were. You'll see all the characters running, determined, racing to their carts, and then they all jump in their carts or on on their cycles or whatever, and then they just start going. Right? It's super inspiring, super dramatic. Which that would be tons of fun too. I actually want to play with this timing just a little bit before we go into spline mode. Let's see, go to 20 frames, and I'm gonna push this these contact poses out just a little bit to see what it gives us. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that in polish mode. 15. Scrub through this. I'm liking what I see, so I'm going to go ahead and go into the graph editor. Since this is my only frame, it's easy to, I have them selecting all the right curves. I'm just going to press the auto button, and we're going to see how much this messes up our run cycle. It doesn't mess it up, right? I'm always afraid when I, get done with nice blocking, right? I play through the blocking and script through the blocking, and it's actually looking quite nice. And then I spline it, and things get kind of muddy sometimes, and so it's really nice to see that it didn't completely get busted. Okay. I mean, this is a maybe for a mobile game this can pass as a run cycle, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that really wouldn't care for this run cycle as is. It's not too bad. It could go into as a quick animation into a game to do some testing with, right? But we're not doing that. We want to make this super nice and super fun and polished, right? And so first thing I want to do, make sure that you take this out of clamped and stepped mode. You go back into auto, so you don't accidentally add a stepped key somewhere that you don't want to, right? So when he gets up in the air, right, I want to actually put a couple frames in here to make him have a little bit of hang time on his runs, right? And so I'm going to bump this up to, let's just say 25. I'm going to put a frame here right before the final contact pose, here, here, and here. And I'm just going to push these, I'm just going to put a frame in between all these. Right? It's still going to give us a run cycle, but it's going to give him some hang time on his right. It gives him a little bit of a leap kind of a thing when he's running. And I like that. It's a little more cartoony. It's not, and so if we don't like how slow he is coming back down right here, we can always just take a frame out of there and make it happen every other frame, so that each keyframe there's two frames, and it drops us back down to that 17. Right, and he still has that magic, still has that fun hang time in there, right? Okay, and the first thing I do when I am animating a run cycle is I will make sure to pull his feet out, the character's feet out. And make sure they stay planted the way they're supposed to, right? Let's go ahead and save it again real quick. Do a roll. Maybe we can flatten that out for right now, and then he gets the roll in there. again, if I get quiet, I'm just super focused. Okay. Okay, I just want to point something out here. You'll notice it's a very small, but you'll notice that his right foot here, if you watch the heel, kind of track the heel, it kind of hits a wall, right? When it's coming back up. That's because it comes to this frame, it's up, and then it doesn't really go up anymore. It just kind of goes straight. And it's not looping, right? There's nothing changing from here to here, and it's just kind of remaining flat. And it actually goes back down. It goes up, stops going up between these two frames, and then it starts going down abruptly. And so what we want to do for that is we want to actually make sure that we have some kind of looping right there, whether it be having this lead up into this one like this, or leading down like I had it. But as you can see, now it's progressing. Let's see how that looks now. It's still got a little bit of a hitch here. And that's why. Okay, all of a sudden it's going, and then nothing happens within these two frames here, and then all of a sudden it just pops up. That's where our problem is. And we don't want that to happen. Maybe it's on our forward that we need to make the loop happen. So we do that. I'm just going to pull this back like that, so the loop, on the loop, it goes forward just a little bit. Oh, put it forward more than I wanted it to. There's none to stop there at the top, right? Something else we can make sure we do is we can make it so these don't flatten out so much, have so much of a plateau here in the middle. You can just pull those up a bit so that he continuously keeps going upward. Okay. Something that I did not put in the blocking that I wish I would have is any rotation. And that can easily be added, no worries. Just need to delete these frames here. And now we have that curve right there. And then what we can do is we can, depending on if we play this, depending on if we like that, I may not like that right now. When I add an overlap, it might look a little different, but let's go ahead and experiment, see what happens when I do that. I don't like that even more. So I'm going to do that. I don't like that. I like this a little bit more. And it seems like a little too much rotation, so what I can do is I can just calm that down there. Right, and that way it gives us a little bit more rotation. We don't want him to just all of a sudden go over to one side and then the other. We want him, because if we do, this is a little bit of a flatter area on our timeline, right, on our graph editor. We don't want that, and so we're just going to go ahead and delete this. And honestly, delete all of these. See how it does this like really weird waviness? Just delete all that so it becomes one nice smooth curve, right? And that way it gets our side to side looking just a little bit better, so he doesn't have any flat areas where he's kind of stopping and going from side to side. One thing we can do to the arms to give them more life is we can pull as they go back. We pull them up like this, and then as they go forward, we actually straighten them out like this. A lot nicer, right? Getting some overlap in there, some offset. We can push that even farther with the hands. If we want to. This kind of will give it a more of a loose look. And we might not want that loose look, but we'll see how it's looking. We put it in there right. This is more like, oh, I'm just running to run, right? This isn't like, ooh, I'm getting somewhere, I really need to go somewhere. If we were going for that kind of a run, we would keep the wrist and everything pretty stiff, right? Get rid of all those fun rotations and just kind of keep it like that. And we would take him, and again, we can take this from a less serious run to a more serious run, all by just manipulating a few curves, right, and doing this. Now he's more determined to get somewhere, and we probably want to take that hang time out so that he's going faster, right? But that's not our intention today. Our intention today is just to create this quick, fun little run that Mallet Boy is doing. And I actually want to go back and put all my fun rotations back into that hand. So he's just having a good day, right? He's happy. He's just running along. Get some shoulder work in there, right? As his arm comes up, his shoulder's going to come up like this. And this is going to, depending on the settings of your character, this is going to pull that arm out. And you might want to change that. I don't know. Let's just have some fun and see what happens. If we don't. Pull that down like that. And again, you'll see kind of a hitch where it feels like it's coming up. Let's see, it's happening right here. Because his arm goes down. You'll see his arm from the front side at least. It's all of a sudden going down, and then all of a sudden it kind of looks like it goes upward. Alright, so we can just fix that by taking that and going like that. Oh, it still feels like it's bumping up. Again, let's make sure that loop is get rid of that there. Okay, maybe it's this right here where it goes. It starts going back right here, and then all of a sudden when it goes back, it starts popping forward again. So we want to continue that back, keeping that going back like this for just a couple of frames, and then it comes forward. Maybe that hits a little hard, so let's pull that out so it softens that up a little bit more, like that. And honestly, it's actually in this instance, it's okay to leave his right arm like that, and kind of look. We're gonna polish up his left arm a little bit more, but his right arm, he's got that glove on his arm. And that's his mallet arm, right? He has his mallet in the game, and that doing something a little bit different with that arm is actually okay because your dominant arm is actually stronger. And it has more muscle. It's bigger, and so it's actually going to sway a little bit more. It's taking more energy to move it back and forth. It doesn't. It kind of happens subconsciously, but you actually sway your dominant arm and your dominant leg and everything a little bit differently than you do your non-dominant arm, right? Non-dominant side, because your body has to counterbalance everything. And you actually sway your dominant arm and leg and dominant side of your body a little bit more, and move it a little bit different than your non-dominant side. Kind of a fun little fact. So with this one, since I want it to be a little asymmetrical with the other side, I'm not going to quite do as much with it. I'll still give it a little bit of life, give it a little bit of offset and everything, but Not that I don't want to pay as much attention to it, but I'm going to give it a little less detail, so to speak, so that my other side feels like there's something different about it, and it's a little more. It's doing something a little bit different, so it's asymmetrical, and your animation doesn't look the same the whole time throughout the entire thing, right? Let's go ahead and do that Z. I usually like to go for an hour. We're going to go just a little bit over an hour today. Because honestly, I'm having fun with this run cycle, and it's looking really cool. You notice that there's some kind of hiccup going on with the arm there. I think it's. Let's just go ahead and delete this here. That got rid of that weirdness. It's always good if you're seeing some kind of weird something happening in your animation. It's always a good idea to go over to your graph editor to really nail down what's happening, because your graph editor will tell you exactly what's going on, and you'll find a lot of stuff out. I'm going to pull his shoulder up. I don't want this arm to come out like this, right? Because I want it to be asymmetrical. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to swing this, I'm going to have the shoulder raise here, right? But I'm going to actually take this upper arm control, and I'm going to rotate it back down and in. Delete that there. So I still get that shoulder raise, but his arm stays closer into his body. Go in, add some overlap and things to his head. Let's get rid of all these unnecessary keys here. And it gives us a nice even curve to work with. And then we can add points later on if we want to. Let's see what it looks like when we do this. No, that's not good. Let's change it like this. That's interesting. I might like this more. And then what we can do is we can throw some overlap on it, see what that gives us. Oop. And again, if you just press Z, you can always get back to where you were. Shrink this down. Now I want to give him, when he's going forward like this, to go land on his foot. Ah! Scary. Okay. Now we can pull him forward. I want to give him just a little bit of forward, and then he's going to go backward when he goes back up to the back up to the contact pose, right? And then he's going to go forward again, just ever so slightly, and we're going to delete these to get that even motion on the graph editor. Get a curve, nice even curve. Right, let's goes forward just a little more. Right, and that's kind of, he looks like, if you track his hip there, it's going more diagonal instead of a circular motion, right? So what we can do is we can just quickly select these, throw some overlap on it. I don't like that overlap, so I'm going to do it the other way. I'm just going to calm it down. Let's go like this. Make it so it's even. And we gave his looks like this back arm here is kind of hitting a wall. It's not really going anywhere after. Let's just pull that back. Pull that up slightly. Let's go ahead and pull these like this. See what that gives us. Okay. His arm is coming back. If you'll notice his arm, it looks like his arm is coming back. When we do this run cycle, you notice that that arm, it's kind of, when his body hits its up position, his arm is hitting its backward rotation position. So we kind of want to give that a little bit more life and overlap and everything. So we're going to grab the rotate Y here. See what happens when we get rid of this key. Not good things. I don't like what's going on there, so I'm going to go ahead and go back to where I was. Rotate this down, and then I'm going to rotate this slightly downward like this. Right. So it's continuing. Pull this up just a little, oops, pull this down, I guess, just a little bit. And since this arm is kind of swinging a little bit more now, let's just shrink that down just a bit. And not that much. Oops. Since we want to keep that right arm asymmetrical, right? Stronger, it's more dominant, so we're going to keep it like that. I like the head right now. It's on its side, you know, tilting. When we play the animation, you see it's tilting from side to side. Although I do like that, I just want to see what happens if I play with the curves just a little bit. And give them some overlap, right? We can just go like that and make sure that this is, yeah, that is what we want to control. Still getting the same motion, and we deleted all those keys. In fact, it's much smoother motion. Let's see what happens if we give it just a little bit of, I don't like that overlap as much. Maybe I do like this a little bit more. Okay. I don't like how this foot, when it comes forward, this foot right here, when it comes forward, it starts rotating back like this. I want it to already be rotated like this. So it's rotating downwards instead of upwards. Or so that it's already in its upward position here. So he can go to land, right? I don't like how that's coming in like that. Let's pull that out. go ahead and look at the Z translation on these guys. I just want to experiment here and just go completely blow that out. Okay, yeah, it's not working. When I delete those. Maybe we can make it, pull this back just a little bit, so when it oops, it starts going forward again. Like that, and then it just continually goes forward. See, like that. There we go. That looks a little bit better. And we can do the same with this side. When it comes forward, it can continue to keep going forward just like the other one. Okay. Add a few more details in here. Lord Asmir has requested some hoodie overlap, hoodie action. Perhaps some hoodie bounce. Your wish is my command. Looks a little not very good right now, but that's okay. We'll fix that. It's blue. Blue for Z. Like this. Ah! That's hideous. Okay, pull that down. There we go. And since I don't think hoodies are kind of quite that stiff, I'll pull it down a bit. Right. Okay. I think I'm liking this. I think I'm liking this where it's at. I really like this run cycle. I could keep tweaking it. Again, with all game animations, probably might get them in game and say it's not fast enough because the amount of speed, the timing that our character goes from, that our character moves in the world, and he needs to move just a little bit faster. This is already pretty fast, so I don't foresee that happening. But or it'd say we need him to move slower. That most definitely could happen. Okay. I think in a general sense, without being picky and really nitpicking and noodling every little thing, I'd say this is pretty good. I'd say this is a pretty good run cycle. If we wanted to make it more cartoony, just real quick, we could do the toe wiggle, right? Go like that. And keep it bent quite a bit this whole time, and then when he slaps it down, that's when it goes down. And then on this pose, it starts going like this. You get this. Then we get some goofy shoes, right? But I don't think that's what we were going for in this animation, so I'll step back. Just wanted to show you guys some fun you could have with animations, if you wanted to. And again, you could quickly change this animation. It's just a few adjustments in the graph editor, lean it forward a little bit more, change the position of the position and distance of the legs, what they're doing. But as just a general run cycle, I'd say this is working pretty well. A more fun, light-hearted run cycle. So, yeah. Anyways, thanks for joining me today, guys. I'm always happy to show you guys my process and show you how I go about animating things and do it in a quick way and how fast you can get some animations done. I hope you guys come back in the future for some more fun animation tutorials on how to animate videos and kind of process videos, what I do with my animations and my process. Thank you guys for coming. I am Gogan with Baka Studios, and I'll see you next time. You have a wonderful night.